Hello, and welcome back to Self-Love Ignited. Today on the podcast, we are talking about how the meanings that you choose create your experience in life. And yes, you do get to choose.
My name is Katie Allen, and this is Self-Love Ignited. Let's get to it.
All right, welcome back to Self-Love Ignited. Today we are talking about how the meanings that you choose when you go through something in life create your experience in life. And I'm going to explain to you what that means and how to use this to your advantage. Okay, so essentially, it's really important that you know that your brain, as a human, we're designed this way. Your brain is constantly taking in information from all different sources through all of your senses, analyzing it, and then creating meanings out of it. It's one of the amazing ways that our brains are always working for us, right? It is how we learn, it is how we grow, and it also keeps us safe and keeps life sort of like ticking ahead. It just keeps things moving. But that doesn't mean that this system or this way of being is without its pitfalls. So today we're going to talk about how to help your brain make meanings of things that support your growth, that support you living a life that lights you up, instead of keeping you trapped in the same old cycles. And if you still are not quite getting it, just give it a moment, okay? It does get clear, I promise. A few years back, so to give you a history, a few years back during my first coaching certification, this was in 2017, the beginning of 2017. One of the key lessons that I learned through this certification that has been a game changer for me personally, it has been a game changer for me in how I work with my clients, is that, one of the key lessons was that the things people are going through in life aren't actually as important as the meanings they make of the things they are going through. So when you're going through something, the actual situation isn't as important as what you mean it make. I feel like I'm talking cryptically, but I promise it is going to make sense. Humans are designed to make meaning out of everything, right? It's how our brains work. That is how we are designed. Our brains are designed to make meaning out of everything. Like computers, we're always analyzing things, taking things in, processing it. But how does our brain know what to make things mean? And when I say make things mean, I mean, let's just take on a very basic example. When we're talking about body image, self-love, a lot of the talk in this area, and something that we've come back to time and time again on this podcast, is weight. Unfortunately, it is still a thing. It is a really big thing. It is a big topic. So we will keep talking about it as we need to. Let's say you gained 10 pounds. Or 5 kilos, if that's the measurement that your brain works in. 10 pounds or 5 kilos. They're roughly the same. That weight in and of itself is actually neutral, right? You step on a scale, you see that the weight on the scale has changed, and then it depends on what you make that mean. So if, for example, your entire life you've been overweight, you have been trying really hard to lose weight, for health reasons, whatever it is, you've been working out, you've been eating really healthy, and you see that you've gained weight, then that weight gain might mean like, what's wrong with me? I'm lazy, my body is failing me, I'm not doing this right, something's got to change. Whereas if your whole life you have struggled with being underweight, you have struggled with not being able to keep weight on, maybe if you are somebody who menstruates, maybe you lost your period because your body weight was too low and you've been really trying to gain weight. And you step on that scale and you see that you have gained 10 pounds. You see that you have gained this weight. That is a moment of celebration, right? That is like, yes, everything that I'm doing is working. My body is responding. This is incredible. But the weight in and of itself is neutral. The 10 pounds, 5 kilos, is the same 10 pounds. But it is the meaning that you make of it that is the difference, right? And these things, these meanings come from our programming. Humans are programmed very, very young, right? It's like this is happening from the time we are born. Some people say it's even happening in the womb with what we are taking in through our senses at that time, up until we are 5. It keeps happening throughout life, but that is like the most impactful period, I guess you could say. Right? We're programmed through experiences, lessons, and the examples that are set for us by the people around us. You received the majority of your programming early in life from the people you were around the most. So this may be your family of origin, it may be family, friends, grandparents, whoever it happens to be, right? And note that this is all subconscious. This is under the this is under the surface, but what it means is that a story you learned when you were 2 years old, 3 years old, 5 years old might still be dictating your beliefs and reactions regarding events happening today, which is kind of cool if you think about it, but also really annoying. Because I don't know about you, but I want to be functioning as an empowered adult, taking responsibility for myself, growing, learning, adapting, right? But when your brain is on autopilot, essentially it's like 3-year-old you is making a decision. 3-year-old you or 5-year-old you is reacting to things. And once we can see that, and that's no judgment, right? There's no judgment here. This is just an understanding and acknowledging. But once we see that, then you can do something with it, right? These stories that you learned when you were really little, they make the meaning, right? So can you see the difference? Going back to that story that I told you about, like gaining that certain amount of weight, I hope that you can see the weight in and of itself is neutral, right? If you were taught really young in life that you should never be fat, that you should always be thin, that you can only be happy if you're really thin, that if you gain weight, it's something to hate, it's something that you should avoid at all costs, right? If you witnessed people being on diets, like I did, that's how I grew up. I grew up in a household where that was just the norm, right? Different eating habits. If you grew up in a household where somebody was exercising and sort of like punishing themselves, even if it wasn't directed at you, even if you were never told that you needed to lose weight, even if you were never told that you needed to change your body or work out, children are sponges. And anybody who's spent any amount of time with kids, I think, knows this, right? Kids are sponges. And even if you're not speaking directly to them, they see everything, they absorb everything, and they would still understand. So if you were around this as a child, you would still understand that, right? The event itself, that 10 pounds, that is neutral. It's the same 10 pounds, but it's your brain, your experiences, these beliefs from when you were a young kid that make the meaning. They make it good or bad. They make it lazy or amazing. Sorry, they make you labeled as lazy, or they make you labeled as amazing, right? And it's the same in so many other circumstances in life. This is just one example. But think about getting a raise at work or signing a new client in your business. This could be cause for celebration, right? I have been working so hard. I feel like I'm finally getting things together. Yes, this is happening. Yes, I'm so excited. Or it could be cause for like crippling anxiety, because then you're like, oh my God, I can't measure up. I'm going to fail. I'm going to disappoint people. Again, the event is neutral. Getting a raise, signing a client, that happens. And then it's within your brain, the stories start running. The stories are, this is amazing, or I'm going to fail. I'm going to be successful, or I'm going to let people down. Those are the stories. The event itself is neutral. If you took an hour every weekend to go to a spa and really indulge yourself, you could feel horribly guilty because you don't feel like you're worth it. You're spending money that maybe could, quote unquote, could better be spent elsewhere. Or you could feel like yummy and nourished and like decadent and like on top of the world, and it just would make you feel like you elevated, right? Again, going to the spa is neutral, but it is the meaning that we make. It is the stories that we tell ourselves around the event that dictate it. So I hope that I have painted this picture for you, but when you understand that it's the meanings behind circumstances that dictate how you feel and not the circumstances themselves, it is a massive game changer, because it is simple yet profound. profound. It is so empowering. It impacts literally every single thing in your life, right? So it impacts, just like we talked about, it impacts your body image, the way you speak to yourself. It impacts your health, your well-being, your money, your relationships, your career, your spirituality, your internal dialogue, everything. This impacts everything because it's happening inside of you, in your brain. So by default, it impacts every single thing in your life. Now, you might be sitting there being like, okay, I think I kind of get the concept. Excuse me. I think I kind of get the concept, but like, what do I do with it? What do I actually do with this now? And don't worry, I'm going to help you out with that. Okay. I promise. I'm not just going to point this out to you and then leave you hanging. So I want to give you some really simple steps that you can begin with today that are going to help you change the meanings. They're going to help you begin to shift this. Now, I want you to first understand this is a practice. This is a practice. This is not a one and done. This is not like a, you turn the key or like there's a magic button or a magic pill or whatever. And like suddenly all of these meanings are just going to be like easy and fun and my brain's not going to do this anymore. No, like you are operating with decades. And chances are if you're over the age of 10 or 15, you are operating with decades worth of stories. You are operating with a lot of beliefs that have been ingrained in you, that have been programmed. And yes, we can shift them, but it takes practice, right? This can take a bit of time. So I really want you to be patient with yourself. First things first, become aware. Start noticing, right? Be present and be mindful. Notice your thoughts. Notice these stories. Notice these judgments and the pattern that you sink into of what you are making things mean. When you are mindful, when you are present, and when you can be really curious about it, I gained 10 pounds and I'm telling myself I'm really lazy. Oh, isn't that interesting? I wonder where that story came from. I just signed a new client in my business and now my anxiety is through the roof. Isn't that interesting? I wonder why I'm anxious. I wonder where that came from. What is the underlying story? Where did that begin, right? Do your best not to judge these things when they happen, because they will happen. Do your best not to judge them, but really just notice them. When you're not noticing them, when they're running in the background on autopilot, you're completely powerless to change them, right? So if you want to begin to shift these, the first step is that you need to see them. You need to see them. You need to start being aware. And then once you begin to notice them regularly, the next thing is actually check in with them, begin to question them, right? And that's sort of like the curiosity piece, but like continuing down that path. So, ask if they are supportive or not. I signed a new client. I'm feeling really, really anxious. There's a story that I'm not going to be able to follow through and that I'm going to be seen as a fraud. Do you have any truth for that? Any proof, for that? Do you know for sure that this is true? Is this story helping you move forward, or is this holding you back? Does the story have a positive intention? And when I look at that specific story, I can see quite clearly, as a coach, I've had enough of these conversations, I can see quite clearly that story is trying to keep you safe, right? Because safety is really what our body is programmed to do, what your brain is trying to do the vast majority of the time, keep you safe. And what is safe is, for many people, keeping you small, keeping you quiet, right? Not getting outside of your comfort zone and doing things on repeat, even if they haven't been getting you where you want, right? Even if you want more clients and you're not getting them, they're keeping you stuck in that pattern because it's safe, because we know that we don't die when we stay in this pattern. Literally, on like an evolutionary level, we don't die when we don't sign clients and suddenly we've signed a client and then there's a question and this feels dangerous, so we are going to contract, right? So there's a beautiful intention behind the story. And then once you can see that too, you're allowed to switch them, right? You're allowed to just sort of see it. You can choose this to be normal, or you can switch the story entirely. I didn't mean normal, I meant neutral. You can choose to see it as something neutral, or you can switch the story. You can say, I signed a new client in my business. I want to be excited about that. I'm having some anxiety. And I'm going to intentionally approach this with a neutral mindset. It is what it is. When you have a business, you sign clients. And I am just going to approach it from this way. Or if you are like me, and to me, neutrality like that doesn't really work. For some people, it does. If you're like me, you might want to completely switch the story. So that might look like saying, I'm so excited that I signed a new client in my business. Oh my goodness. Yes, I've been waiting for this. I recognize that there's a part of me that is scared, and I see you, fear, and I am so grateful for you. And I'm going to be excited anyway because I am choosing growth. Right? So can you see how you're seeing the fear, seeing the story, acknowledging the story, and then choosing to step forward anyway? Right? So the meaning that your brain assigned to it, the meaning of, I'm really anxious, this is terrifying, I'm going to be found out as a fraud, you are actually consciously seeing that story, being curious about that story, and changing it with a loving attitude. And then once you've decided, once you start doing this, this becomes a pattern, this becomes a habit, you can start doing this. This sort of becomes your automatic, right? If for years you have been having a different sort of autopilot running in the background, you can start doing this more regularly. And I really want to say, oftentimes people will do this once or twice, and then they'll just forget about it. They'll just drop it. And like my physiotherapist told me a couple of years ago, he said, people come in with all sorts of pains all the time. And I do the work in the office during our appointment, and I give them exercises. And if they don't do the exercises, then those few minutes that we're together, that 30-minute or that 60-minute appointment, isn't going to have nearly the same impact as if they did the practices outside. Now, I don't see this physio anymore. I do still do the exercises that he prescribed me. But, it's that same sort of thing, like knowing this intellectually and doing it once or twice. Yeah, it's a start, but it's not going to create long-lasting change. And again, this is going to impact everything in your life, right? We've used a couple of specific examples today, but this could be anything. This could be in a relationship. This could be with money. This could be in almost anything, with your health, huge things with health. As long as you're alive, as long as you are on this planet, as long as your lungs are breathing, your brain is going to continue to make meanings of things. Yes, most of this did happen. A lot of the sort of the blueprint happened when we were young kids, but science has shown, neuroplasticity, our brains at every age can continue to grow, and we can form new neural pathways. So it's not that you stop learning, it's just that it's in a slightly different way. And what this means is that as long as you're alive, it is your job to stay present. It is your job to make sure that your brain is choosing what is best for you, what is supportive of you, instead of just following that old childhood programming running in the background. And I want to say too, I know some people, when I say, excuse me, sorry, I have a tickly nose. I know some people, when I say like, you're going to have to do this as long as you're alive, that can feel like, oh my God, and really heavy and really, like a burden. And trust me when I say it's not. Trust me when I say that living underneath these old, outdated childhood stories, that is the burden. That is the thing that feels heavy, that feels weighted down, right? When you approach it in this way, yes, it's new. Yes, it takes some energy at the beginning, but it is ultimately freedom. It ultimately means that you can grow and shift and change. And there's so much beauty in this, okay? And some other tools that may be helpful in this process are things like mindfulness meditation, because it helps you with the observation of what's happening in your head, the observation of what you are thinking, what you are saying, right? Being really more mindful, being present. Another thing is journaling. It's a great way to reflect. Having a coaching conversation, whether it's a coach, whether it's a therapist, a counselor, a mentor, whoever, but having somebody to get this out. Sometimes we don't even see our own limiting stories. Sometimes we don't see the meaning that we are making. And it's only when you say it out loud and then somebody goes, have you ever considered this? Have you ever considered looking at it from this way? And it's like, I haven't actually, but that's interesting, right? That's what it can be really, really helpful to have somebody else to bounce this off of. But I really just want to say that when you're at the beginning to notice these stories, beginning to notice the meanings that your brain is assigning to things, it can feel challenging because it's new. And like almost anything that's new, sometimes it can be challenging, right? But that doesn't mean that it's a reason to not do it. It very quickly, when you begin to practice this, it very quickly becomes second nature. It improves your outlook, it improves your mindset, it boosts your happiness, right? Your well-being, your sense of joy, your sense of purpose, your sense of freedom. It really does change everything. So I want to encourage you to do this today. Begin to step back, notice, see what your brain is doing. If this is something that you would like support with, if you are listening to this and you think that would be great, but I don't even know where to start, or I feel like I need somebody else to help me see this, this is definitely something that I do with my clients quite regularly. And it is something that can, like I said, shift everything in your life. I am currently enrolling. I have single sessions up for sale always. Those are always available. And I am currently enrolling in both my 1 month and my 3 month programs. I'm going to put the link to that in the show notes. You can click on through, nice and simple. If you want to make this happen, let's make this happen. Okay. I cannot wait to speak with you. I hope that you have an amazing day. So much love to you. Here is to you loving all that you are. Mwah. I will see you next time.